Today on In Focus, we're going to cover the basics of follow filming lines. This is something that subscribers have asked for a lot lately, but as it's quite a broad subject to cover into one episode, I'm just going to start with some of the basic starting points, and in future episodes we can take it a little bit further. The first thing that will help with follow filming lines is having the right equipment. Obviously a filming board is pretty crucial. If you look back to episode 17, we talk a lot about that. And then the other thing that's going to help is a fisheye lens on your camera. If you use a really wide fisheye lens along with a cruiser board, you can get away with just having a steady hand and getting really nice, clean tracking shots. Another thing to take note, if you're not using a digital SLR, if you're using a camcorder that has a built-in steady shot feature, when you put these fisheye lenses, you typically want to turn off the steady shot feature, because quite often you'll have a little bit of vignetting in the camera, and with the steady shot, it's going to be jiggling the frame around to compensate for your movement, and what happens is you see the edge of the frame jiggling around more because of the vignetting coming in and out of the corners of the frame, and that actually can make it look worse and have the opposite effect of the steady cam that's desired. So yeah, make sure you turn off the steady shot whenever you're filming with a fisheye lens and follow filming. So the fisheye lens will give you the range to get all the action in while being really close to all the excitement, and give you the smoothest looking tracking shots, because the longer the lens you use, the more you're going to need additional stabilization, whether it's a built-in steady shot in the camera for rolling long lens, or if you're going over terrain that you can't roll on, you're going to probably want something like a glide cam or some kind of a steady cam to cruise across that without getting a really jerky shot. If you look at these examples I just did with Aiden walking across some grass here, you can see the difference between the ones where I used the glide cam and the ones where I didn't. The ones where I didn't have a pretty shaky footage and also a pretty bad rolling shutter issue, as you can see in them. For those of you unfamiliar with the term rolling shutter, it's one of the drawbacks of shooting video with a digital SLR, because each frame is being scanned much like a photocopier will scan an image. And what happens is, just like when you move the original when you're doing a photocopy, the resulting image will be slightly distorted during the area that you've actually moved it while it's scanned. Each frame or two, when the camera is being jerked, will have similar sort of distortions and tweaks that can make the footage look undesirable or even unusable. So now you've got your filming board and your fisheye lens on your camera or something similar. It's time to get out there and start practicing by filming some easy lines with your friends just to get the hang of things. Before you start shooting though, I recommend planning it out with a skater, so you know the beginning, the middle and the end of the line, and you can work around that and plan to be in the right place at the right time to hopefully get each trick from the most complementary angle. Obviously some lines start from a stationary position and other lines start with the cameraman moving already. If you're both rolling together to begin with, it's often good to get your speed up early so that you're not still pushing during the beginning of the line, and that way you're cruising comfortably and just focus on the filming at that point. Also, if you want to add something a little bit more interesting to the beginning of the line, quite often people will pan up from the ground or pan down from the sky even, or just wrapping around a picnic table or something like that gives you a nice smooth entrance into the line. And also gives the editor a little bit more opportunity for various cut points or dissolves that might make the entrance to the line look smooth in the edit. If you're filming a line that starts from a stationary position, then you probably want to practice the transition from the first trick into the beginning of the line as you start moving. Everybody has a slightly different technique for this. I've seen some people start with their front foot on their board and just be ready to start taking a few quick pushes just to sync up with the skater. Other times you might put the board a couple of steps away and take a slight running step onto your board if you have to go faster, or if it's a case of going from 0 to full speed. I've even sometimes had my board in my left hand, camera in the right hand, and just kind of thrown down along with the skater, so that way you can keep up with them and be in sync for the first part of the line. During the middle of the line, you want to anticipate any changes in speed and position that the skater might take. That way you're not going to be left behind, you can avoid any collisions, which sometimes happens, and hopefully you're going to be on the good side of the skater for each trick. Sometimes it's quite hard to get a smooth shot when you're trying to push really fast to keep up with the skater, but I actually find that the closer you are, the smoother it looks, because when the skater fills a frame, you don't have as much horizon for reference that's showing you that it's shaking, I guess. And it can look like a slightly smoother shot. Also, you can even take it one step further. I sometimes find myself timing my pushes with the skater's pushes so that any jerky movement kind of blends together with the their movements. Now, having said all that, sometimes a little shake is unavoidable, especially when you're filming really fast lines, and it can actually enhance the action by emphasizing the speed a little bit more. If you're filming ledges or flatland tricks in the middle of the line or just pushing along, typically you want to have that traditional low angle looking up. That can look the best for the most part, but don't be afraid to experiment with different looks of your own and come up with new stuff. So when it comes to filming the end of the line, again, you want to have some kind of a plan, and if this means that the camera is coming to a stop, then you want to practice this a little bit maybe, not only so that you get a smooth stop at the end of the line, but also so you have the composition figured out so you can tell the whole story at the end. Maybe it's showing how high the ledge is, or how long the gap is, or how long the rail is, or whatever the end of the line is. Also, by coming to a complete stop at the end of the line and letting the skater ride away, you can actually exaggerate their speed a little bit, especially if you frame the shot so they're composed either towards one side of the fisheye or the other side of the fisheye frame. Because what happens with a fisheye lens is the further towards the edge they get, the smaller they become, and by doing so it makes it look like they're actually going a lot faster than they are on the ride away. When we first filmed this line, I didn't really like that there was a harsh shadow of my camera on the ledge at the end, so Aiden threw in a little hippie hop just to avoid that and make it a little bit more fun. If the line doesn't call for you to come to a complete stop at the end, then maybe you want to think of a nice transition out from the line, kind of like we talked about for the intro, whether it's panning up to the sky or panning into the ground, or just something that will give the editor a little bit of room to work with on the cut point. And again, if they need to make a dissolve or a transition, it can have something nice to fade into the next shot. So that was just some starting point basics on how to follow film lines. A lot of this stuff is actually very instinctive to most skaters if they've watched a lot of skate videos. It's just a matter of trial and error and practice and just getting the timing down, the angles down, and just generally getting a little bit smoother. In future episodes, we're going to cover this a little bit more extensively and deal with some of the more complicated issues of filming lines, like going through different lighting conditions during the line, from dark to light or vice versa, or maybe going up and down curbs and stairs and other weird terrain in the middle of the line, or just follow filming through skate parks and transitions, that kind of stuff. Hopefully some of this basic information helps you get started. Like I said, there's no rules or regulations, just take this information and run with it. Damn it, what's the last part?